Now, it's been 40 years since the fall of Haitian dictator Jean-Claude Duvalier, son of the equally infamous François Duvalier. Haiti remains mired in institutional, political, humanitarian, and economic crises. On Saturday, the mandate of the Presidential Transition Council officially expires, and the country is in limbo, not knowing if there will be change or not. Journalist Harold Isaac joins us from Port-au-Prince. Thanks for speaking to France 24.
Thanks for having me.
Harold, what information do you have about what to expect tomorrow? Are things going to change or not?
Well, that's the question everybody's asking today, whether to expect any sort of turmoil in the coming hours as the TPC is nearing the end of its term, and that essentially Prime Minister Alex Didier-Fils-Aimé is set to carry on with the transition in the coming weeks, not to say months.
So just set the context of us around this transition. Why was it set up? How long has it been? Just explain things, give a bit more background for those of us who don't follow Haiti in great detail.
Well, essentially, Haiti has been in an aggravated constitutional and institutional crisis for the better part of the last 10 years. It took essentially a turn for the worse since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse on July 7th of 2021. Then Prime Minister Ariel Henry took over for more or less 3 years up until March 2024, where he was essentially withheld from returning to Haiti and forced to resign, essentially. And from that point on, a Transitional Presidential Council was set up with 9 members and 7 voting members. And they were essentially mini presidents in charge of restoring security, delivering security and elections within the coming 2 years, which essentially they failed to deliver, and today they are at the end of their term, and that is creating a lot of political turmoil. And regardless that whether they leave or not, which is unlikely to be that they'd be staying at this point, we are still being propelled into a profound political crisis.
Now, what are some of the wider factors that are feeding into this turmoil, perhaps inside the country, externally? Just explain the wider causes of this turmoil.
Well, again, Haiti is today facing an aggravated gang crisis. About 80% of the capital is under some sort of gang control. It has spread to 2 other departments up north, both the Artibonite and the Center Department, and which has led to about 1 million people displaced. About half of the 12 million people population of the country is facing famine-like hunger and enormous atrocities affecting women and children. So this has been a very big problem in Haiti, but it also created a regional crisis with I'd say about 1 million Haitians living Haiti in the last 10 years, going all the way down south to Latin America, in Chile, in Brazil, and also spreading to up north to Mexico, Central America, Mexico, the US and Canada.
And maybe let's talk a little bit about the legacy of the Duvalier, because we're coming up to this anniversary of 40 years. How would you say Haitians remember the Duvalier today?
Well, the Duvalier dynasty that lasted 29 years from 1957 was a very gruesome and brutal dictatorship that really shaped the country, not necessarily in the best terms, with privation affecting everything from private liberty of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of association. There were major crackdowns against students, lawyers, human rights advocates, journalists, you name it. And that really was one of the darkest period of Haitian history. Now, came out of it was a lot of hope in 1986 when on February 7th, essentially Duvalier, Baby Doc, fled the country to France, where he sought refuge. And the country was essentially promised to a spring or a democracy spring, and that promise was really vivid and went through across the whole all the levels of society. However, it was challenged and by times short-lived because reactionary forces were always at the corner and trying to quell all this burgeoning, democracy efforts, whether through coups d'etats that were interrupting electoral cycles, and of course returns of militias and military regimes. So, but essentially, one of the key points of this burgeoning democracy, I'd say, spring, was the election in 1991 and in 1990, and December 16, 1990, of then priest Jean-Bertrand Aristide, who eventually also faced a coup d'etat and fled to exile in the U.S. And his return ever since in 1994, brought back by American forces, also shaped our relationship to not only the U.S., but also within the country, and all the political dynamics have been essentially between two big factions, the Lavalas regimes and more reactionary forces. The Lavalas is more leftist, and the reactionary forces that are like more close to the Duvalier leanings in the past.
So would you say the country is still suffering these cycles of one misfortune after another, followed by hope, followed by misfortune? And how might it ever break this cycle?
Well, besides like 40 years essentially of experimenting with democracy for the better and the worse in many instances, we've also faced natural catastrophes such as the massive earthquake of January 12, 2010, where essentially about 300,000 Haitians died suddenly. And today, the gang violence is essentially a long kind of aftershock, of that earthquake, because the whole center of downtown Port-au-Prince was completely obliterated and never really recovered. And these areas were essentially remained abandoned and eventually became lawless with gangs after the departure, namely of stabilizing missions from the UN, the MINUSTA, that was in Haiti from 2004 to 2017. So when they departed in 2017, that left the Haitian government with a lot to handle, especially in terms of security. And we never really had a UN mission returning in full force until the Kenyan-led MSS came about 2 years ago, and now is being transformed into what they call the gang suppressing force.
All right, Harold, Isaac, we'll leave it there because I think it's about 2:30 a.m. where you are in Port-au-Prince. So thank you so much for staying up late for us and giving us such a detailed overview of the situation in Haiti. Look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks for having me.